Diggs in motion from right to left. Allen in the shotgun. Takes the snap. Four-man rush. Looks right. Throws right sideline. And it's intercepted again by Jordan Whitehead. He's got a hat trick. Jordan Whitehead with his third pick of the night. The Jets get the takeaway. At the 4-yard line, second down and goal. Zach Wilson drops back. Lob left for Garrett Wilson. One-handed catch. Oh, he's got it. That's a Jet touchdown. Garrett Wilson with an unbelievable self-tip. The one-handed snag. And the Jets are a point after away from a tie. Robert Salah, will he call timeout? The snap, the placement down, the kick is on the way. It's got plenty of distance. It hits the upright and goes through. It's good. Tyler Bass hit the left upright and got the right carol. It snuck through the forks, and we are tied with 2 seconds to go. Low snap, and getting away a line drive kick is Sam Martin. Gibson runs under it at the Jet 35. Starts to his left, gets to the 40, turns the corner at the 45, 50, blockers in front, at the 40, at the Bills 30, inside the 20, stutter steps to the 10, to the 5, touchdown! It's a Jet touchdown! This game is over!
What a way to end Monday Night Football. Gibson's going to take this one back, 63 yards for the touchdown.
One of the last players to make the Jet roster out of training camp just took it to the house to win it in overtime for the Jets.
Bob Lassusion and Marty Lyons, Jets Radio. It started out as the most anticipated night in the history of the New York Jets before quickly turning into maybe the biggest nightmare the organization has ever faced, playing out on prime time to the horror of me and countless other Jets fans who are still processing with the fallout of what certainly seems like the end of the road for Aaron Rodgers in 2023 after suffering a torn Achilles tendon, or that's the fear here, on the fourth snap of the game. Almost impossible to think about it, but that is the reality of the situation. And to the credit of the Jets and their coaching staff and that team, they battled back, and at least you could call it a Pyrrhic victory, but it was something that I'll always remember. 22-16 overtime win over the rival Bills with Xavier Gibson, 65 yards to the house. Dan Hanzus here with Marc Sessler and Gregg Rosenthal. Oh, what a roller coaster. I mean, a roller coaster. They haven't invented the ride yet, boys, to properly explain the feeling that I have right now. But yeah, that's life. That's sports.
It is sports, and it's like even as a non-Jets fan, it's a weird moment to process it as a football fan and watching this, because actually, as I walked up the stairs at NFL Network, I hadn't seen the post-game press conference, and it felt like such a special moment for the Jets, because it's everything that sports is. It's brutal that Rodgers left so quickly and frustrating. You want to just curse the gods, and you're watching Zach Wilson, and you're so angry about that. And then the game ended up being just the stupid performance by Josh Allen and this beautiful performance by the Jets, and they end up winning on that special teams and their defense and their offense, and even Breece Hall coming back, and it actually felt kind of amazing and beautiful, even if Robert Salah says he wanted to enjoy it. And by the time I walked upstairs, you hear Robert Salah basically confirm the worst, and that they expect it to be confirmed, and you're kind of right back where you started. He says he's going to enjoy it tonight, but I know it's going to be hard for Jets fans, for you too, Dan.
I mean, from a holistic team angle, and we learned about the Jets and who they are so much over the past month and a half. You just look at like what Jordan Whitehead did tonight, and Quincy Williams and Garrett Wilson's absolutely incredible touchdown grab. Like, there's so much hope inside this organization, kind of no matter what. But like, I walked up those steps today too, And I walked up them with Dan, and like I'm just like, it's so absurd to me, Dan, like conversation we had where we're just like, you have been through so much with the Jets, and like I went through it with the Browns in my own way, and like we were like, tonight will be different. It has to be because of so many factors that suggest that. And I don't know, like, yeah, the other events of this game, because I'm a note taker, and so I'm like taking endless notes about what's happening on snap after snap, and it's like the minute what happened to Aaron Rodgers, after he's like essentially bulldozed 3 snaps in a row, and then he's gone. It's like, it's like, cool. Your house burned down, then the ice cream man drove up and gave you a free snow cone. But it's like, it's a nice victory for the Jets. It says a lot about who they are. But I don't think that if you're like, the guy that gave the middle finger is basically all of football fans that have been through a tough time. And I feel for you, Dan.
I appreciate that, Mark. And I did think about that conversation as well after we finished the podcast and the NFL Plus taping. We walked up the steps and headed out towards the parking lot, and we're talking. And you asked me how I was feeling about the game, and I was having a lot of anxiety about it, and it was building. And I had said this to Colleen on the end of the Hard Knocks run, that the excitement wasn't there as much as just this feeling that I had knowing the way things go as a fan of the Jets, that like the summer, and that's how I kind of said it on the show, the summer was special, and people got annoyed with me and got annoyed with the coverage of the Jets. But I like savored every moment of the summer and the spring and the hype around the team because A, it didn't happen a lot. It hasn't happened a lot with this team. And B, I knew from experience that these things, they don't tend to always work out. And, of course, I'm going to go on the show last week and say the Jets are going to win the Super Bowl because that's the type of fan I am. I always hope for the best. But that gnawing anxiety that I had was the very real feeling that something was going to happen. And I said it to you, Mark, this morning. I said, I'll be okay if this season ends with Rodgers not playing at a high level and the Jets being a disappointment, but at least you took a shot and it made sense. The logic checked out, as I said over and over this summer. The logic checks out that this is a big-time team. What I wouldn't be able to live with is something bad happening, an injury early on happening. And God damn it, if it's not a torn Achilles. And let me tell you something about torn Achilles, because that's something that is personal to me as well. This summer, I was with my father on vacation in Texas and watched him tear his Achilles right in front of me. And I watched the way he limped to the car after it happened. And I learned that day that, you could tear your Achilles and still walk. You just have a bad limp. And I saw him get off that cart in a bad limp, and I was like, oh, God, is that what it could be? And then when you heard the Schefter reporting and the talk about the calf ripple, it just felt, it felt bad. And then I started texting the insiders, Ian and Mike, G, and I was asking for, tell me some good news. And Garofalo, who is a really good guy, and he knows that, I'm a New York, New Jersey guy. And I said to Mike, sorry, I got a lot of text tonight. I said to Mike at 7:14, tell me it's not over. And he wrote, I can't. And he was at the scene tonight. And the Achilles is also a conversation I had hours before the kickoff. I was texting with some family from back home, fellow tortured Jets fans. And I said, even though, in terms of anticipation and excitement for the Jets, nothing's ever going to top when you're young. So for me, the 1999 season, when they were coming off the AFC title game appearance, and they had Parcells and Belichick, and Elway had retired, and Vinny was there, a top quarterback, and Keyshawn was there. And the idea that season was the Jets were the favorites to go to the Super Bowl. They played the Patriots in week 1, and Vinny Testaverde dropped back on a handoff. The snap led to a fumble on the handoff. He lurched forward toward the ball, and he tore his Achilles tendon in week 1, game 1 of the most hotly anticipated Jets season of that decade. For it to happen, the same injury, the same week of the season, after the same, if not more so, hype. I'm not feeling sorry for myself. And Jets fans know it's hard not to feel sorry for yourselves and feel like you're cursed, and then you got to deal with a night of Twitter of people just making bits and jokes and But it's almost impossible to think that happened tonight. And I'm still processing as we talk right now. And I think I've been talking for like 5 minutes, and I apologize. But
no, you should.
It's almost impossible that happened tonight.
No, I wasn't texting. But I don't think you need to hear. I almost feel like you don't need to hear from Mark and I too much on this show. Because
but let
you're
me just
right.
say one more thing, Greg.
If someone had told us 4 hours ago exactly what would happen in the next 4 hours, it just would not have believed it.
And I'll say one more thing, and this is that I didn't choose to be a Jets fan. I was born into it. I couldn't opt out of it if I wanted to. And again, people that listen to the show get annoyed that Dan talks about the Jets too much. They're either not relevant or now they're relevant, and he still talks about them too much. Well, that's just the way it is. That's why I do what I do. That's how I fell in love with sports, because I fell in love with the New York teams and the Jets in football. They are my team. And I'm just living through it. And I got to say that, like, as crushing as tonight is, watching, and I was catatonic, boys. I literally, when it happened, and you knew it was serious right away just by the way he reacted, I didn't speak for 2 hours maybe. And thank you, as my wife brings me a Tito's. I don't know if that's legal or not, but I'm having one right now. Deserved,
I would say.
I think that's legal. What was your family members, your kids, Emily, talking to you?
The kids after the injury and Daddy got really intense and quiet, they fled the scene. Emily, who's a big Hard Knocks fan and was super excited to watch this season, the Jets with me this year, she went and was, making dinner for the kids, and I just watched the game in silence. And, the way the game played out with the Jets falling behind, seemingly not having a backup plan at all for Zach Wilson, and seeing how that game plan was unfolding. You have Peyton Manning come on at halftime and say, he couldn't even muster as a broadcaster, like, any reason to continue watching. The fact that they were able to get back into the game, and when they tie the game, and then now my sons are back in the living room with me and my wife and even my dog, who's sensing a lot of energy and excitement. And then the field goal hits the upright, and of course it drops over the crossbar. And then for that punt, the release and the happiness in my house tonight, and the celebration of lifting up my kids and lifting up my dog, and then us all collapsing together on the couch. Like, that's what sports is. And, like, the season is lost. Like, the Jets, this is going to be another year. It's going to be 55 years without a Super Bowl. But I think I kind of learned something tonight about, like, why I love sports, and because it's those moments. It's like those special moments. So the season might not end in a special way, and every Jets fan has more or less resigned themselves to that. But you got tonight, and tonight was a special game on 9/11. And my last kind of comment is, like, you can't take away what happened with Xavier Gipson there. You can't take away Aaron Rodgers running out of that tunnel with the American flag on the 22nd anniversary, 9/11. Like, those are two of my favorite moments, sports moments, that I've ever had. The fact that it happened on this night, maybe the most crushing night in Jets history. I mean, it's Greek tragedy or whatever you want to call it, but it was a wild night here. It really was.
It's really well said, and I think it does really get to what sports is like. I was trying to say it, and you said it much more artfully, like that moment was special, that there was something, and like that's why we watch everything. And then you hear Salah after the game. I guess we've gone on long enough. Let's hear Robert Salah talk to the media about Rodgers.
Tito's is good.
How do you process your emotions right now? Obviously a great win for you guys, but the Aaron injury.
That part sucks. I'm going to enjoy this win. Winning in the NFL is hard, regardless of who the quarterback is. Personally, I don't hurt for me. I don't hurt for our locker room. I hurt for Aaron and how much he's invested in all of this. So I'm still going to say a prayer. I'm still going to hold out hope. But my heart's with Aaron right now, and nowhere else.
And that's the thing. Like, by the way, I'm so impressed with Robert Salah, not just as a coach, but just as a guy, how he answers these questions. He also, to start, didn't beat around the bush. Basically said, he thinks it's bad, and they'll wait tomorrow to have that confirmed, but to have his team play like that says a lot. And he raised a good point. As much as it sucks for everyone involved, man, it sucks for Aaron Rodgers, who's turning 40 later this year and is an all-time great and has provided so many moments for us as fans, and he was so excited about this opportunity. It was really, however it was going to turn out, it was going to be fascinating and a totally different experience for him, and for him to have it cut short like it is just brutal, and you feel for him.
The one thing, though, I'd say to your point, Dan, I love what you said, and like like some of these teams that go through the darkest moments, like they wind up in really mysterious, unexpected places. I told you today about that Steelers team that lost 51-0 out of the gate and lost like 35-0 the next week. It's like, this might be the worst team in football. And they went on, and Damashek and I used to talk about the Steelers team to have one of the most like incredible journeys. They weren't great, but they were the most lovable team of that entire season. And I'm saying that about a Steelers team. It's just like, the one thing I took away from the rest of the game tonight is like, a weaker team just collapses. You've like it seemed like Aaron Rodgers during Hard Knocks was like obviously the pole star, the sun, everything's shown around him. Maybe the only true adult almost in a way. And it's like they looked up to him so much, but then the way they responded tonight and to do what they did to the Bills, there's still a lot going on with this team. And I get it. Like the expectations are totally different. But it still remains the Jets and the future of the Jets and who they are. And like, they're well coached. And like, I think of both New York coaches, what they've gone through this week. And it's like, I have a lot of faith in Robert Salah to like continue to guide this journey. I just do. And I kind of think like, it takes everything away from a Jets fan to have what happened in the first 5-6 minutes of this game. But it's like, football's weird. And maybe what comes out of this and what's birthed is like the true Jets team. It's just the one little kernel of hope I put in there, that like there may be this other journey that we didn't expect, and it might be the most special path there could be.
I love it. I love the idea of it, Mark. I see the way, and this is the other thing that, I said at numerous points in the spring and summer, that I was never comfortable that Zach Wilson was just like plopped in at the number 2 quarterback spot. Because it was an older quarterback, because he had failed so spectacularly. And I did sense and I understand it, like nobody could have imagined the horror of what happened there in that first drive. But you saw the way Nate Hackett was just staring at that play sheet, just trying to figure out what to use. They were not ready to deal with the Zach Wilson of it all. And I know he made a couple throws in this game. I'll cycle back to that 99 season again, because as the great Chris Wessling, I'd love to hear from Wes tonight, by the way. The great Chris Wessling often said history is instructive. The Jets, shell-shocked after Vinny blew his Achilles, turned to Rick Meyer, another former first-round pick who washed out of Seattle. And he floundered for multiple weeks, and they eventually turned to kind of a gadget quarterback named Ray Lucas, who, with a lot of grit, I think they won 6 of their last 9 games, and they went 8-8 that season. And Rich Cimini, who covers the Jets and knows Jets history better than anyone, has often wrote, like, and Bill Parcells has said himself, like, that was his greatest coaching job, was like getting that team, after how crushing and how devastating week 1 was, to just compete and believe in themselves again and be a team that hung in games week after week. I think that's really, like, realistically for me, given that they don't have a Kurt Warner on this roster that I know of, it is this idea of kind of leaning on this defense and this running game and finding a way to hang around in the playoff race. They got to win today, and that defines success now. You have to recalibrate that. And if the Jets would have lost 24-3 tonight, I don't think anybody would have been surprised. I don't think anybody would have even been down on the Jets, because from where it was
looking
started,
that way. It was 13-3. I had a belief that they were going to come back in this game.
I have so much admiration, as you guys are saying, for the job of these players who just decided that they weren't going to be sad sacks here and just be part of this like incredibly, frankly, sad moment in the history of the organization. And they made it a special night for those 80,000 people in the stadium who were just as shell-shocked and people like me watching at home. Should we talk a little bit about the Bills side of this?
Well, I don't know if you want to get into the Jet. I do want to talk to the Bills side and the game at some point, but while we're talking about the season ahead, the question's going to quickly turn to, if not Zach Wilson, and I know it'll be Zach Wilson next week, and they're going to want Zach Wilson to work, but tonight was disturbing. Like he looked mostly like he
Tonight was
always,
disturbing on so many levels, Greg.
Right.
Well, there's already whispers of Carson Wentz, and
right.
it's already out
His
there.
performance was disturbing, and I know he made a couple throws later, but there was all the Zach Wilson stuff. There was the staring down interception. There was running backwards. I counted 29 yards behind the line of scrimmage on a screen pass.
He loves that.
There was just crazy stuff, and everything you said about that 8-8 team, I hear, but then I see this Jets defense, which made Josh Allen look like a fool. 4 turnovers, 8 quarterback hits, everything that they do, and that this could be the very best defense in the league. And then you saw Breece Hall tonight. What a special surprise. What a special player. Then you see Garrett Wilson make one of the catches of all time on a bad Zach Wilson throw that he turned into a touchdown. And you think, what a special player. And you think, these players deserve more than Zach Wilson. And there are opportunities out there for an organization that is kind of all in and salary cap wise and all that stuff and draft picks. Like, I would be willing to give up some sort of draft pick or something for a veteran that's better. Now, whether that's a free agent like Carson Wentz, whether that's a mid-round pick for pick a name, Jacoby Brissett, Jameis Winston, Teddy Bridgewater. I know these aren't going to get Jets fans excited, but I look at this roster and I think with a quarterback maybe at that level, this is a team that can go out and compete every week and maybe make the playoffs and serve those other players better than 16 weeks of Zach Wilson might. And there has to be a conversation in the Jets front office in the next few days.
The ceiling to me with as currently constituted this roster with Zach Wilson is about 8 wins. I agree with you. Like, it would be a shame to waste another year of this defense being all together and being as talented they are, and a potentially special running game with Breece Hall, who still isn't even Breece Hall yet. I mean, the fact that he got run down from behind on 83 yards, that was telling. He was not getting caught last year. Even that first initial run to the left side where he picked up about 20, you could tell he's not all the way back, and you just hope as the season goes along he does get all the way back. Like, I hear you, and I wonder. I get frustrated because this was always a possibility. This wasn't a remote possibility. There was always a decent chance that you would need your number 2 quarterback to step in. And I just think they had this very cute, in my mind, plan, which was Zach Wilson will sit behind Aaron Rodgers for 1 to 3 years, and then he will hand the reins over in 2026, and then he will fulfill his destiny as a good draft pick by the Jets. And I think they've left themselves very vulnerable here. And I think Nathaniel Hackett would admit that to you in private if you asked him. But I like it, Greg. Like, going after like a Jake Brisket, it's not exciting, especially with the amount of excitement entering tonight. But that would give them a puncher's chance to maybe get to 10 wins. And
they'd have to give a premium that they wouldn't have had to at some point, obviously in the offseason when it was.
Well, they'll have a first-round pick next year,
well,
Greg.
it can't be a first. You cannot be giving up first for these guys. But whether it's a third that like upgrades to a second, depending on how he plays, something like that. Like, to me, it's a whole year of your life, and they're a little screwed anyways. That I think that'd be worth it for a mid-round.
I don't make light of this, but I have my Matthew Stafford sandwich prop sitting out there. Probably the Rams are too high on that situation after what happened against Seattle.
Not week 1, but you're right. Things can change in like 5
You never
weeks.
know. But I think, like, so Carson Wentz has been mentioned. I don't love that for anyone, but why not? I'm with you, Dan, though. I think, like, it's one of these teams that it was kind of Aaron Rodgers or bust, obviously, at quarterback. So it's like, they didn't do enough behind him. And this is an older quarterback that has had, missed games here and there once in a while. I don't know.
5 years, though, man. It is crazy luck.
What else is there to say about this game? Like, yes. I think we get the preview coming up with the Bills, and like I think that this is there's a lot of concern around Buffalo. we talked about it. I know it got like totally panned, like not going to do it, but like it got totally panned like when I mentioned this, but they looked like absolute junk in the preseason when the starters were out there, and I thought that something's going on with Josh Allen. He's also like his turnover count over the last 2 seasons kind of gets washed away because of his incredible heroics, but this is another game where, like, I mean, some of these like interceptions
we
were
should
wild.
be talking about the way we talk about the Browns and Joe Burrow is how we should talk about Josh Allen and the Jets, though. I will say that, like, I'm very interested to see what version of Josh Allen shows up next week, because this was a game Buffalo had no business losing. Their opponent was shell shocked, lost their best player, the quarterback, and all you got to do is kind of play conservatively within your limits, hit a couple throws. Don't give the team reason in that building reason to wake back up. And I just thought it was a really foolishly played game in many respects by Allen. And I know that is something that's always been part of his DNA, but I would like Eric Roberts, our producer, I'll be interested to talk to him when I see him again. Like, you want this stuff to kind of phase out of his DNA as he gets older and starts to understand the mental, cerebral side of the things. And yet he looked like he was year 1 or year 2 in this game.
That was the most chaotic Allen performance I can remember since that Texans playoff loss, which was kind of the moment where, like, all the Josh Allen detractors, like myself at the time, were just like, man, this guy's an insane person. Like, he just made some insane decisions tonight. And give Jordan Whitehead credit, especially the third interception was a beautiful play. And the Jets defense played with such ferocity and such physical nature when they were tackling all over the field from minute 1. I watched the game, here with MJD, and he was noticing it. Like, Michael Clemens, everyone was just hitting. But a veteran quarterback that's played as much as Allen has to know the situations here, that he was just giving points away in a game that they just needed to get through. And he should have known better, because he struggled against his team, as you mentioned, 3 straight times. He's had 3 touchdowns and 5 interceptions, been sacked, I think, 13 times in the last 3 times, and he hasn't hit anything down the field. Anytime he tries to go down the field, he's struggled, and I thought he got over it. They had a nice clutch drive to force overtime where he made some nice throws, and Diggs especially did a great job on that drive. But that's Allen, and the weird thing is it's not improving, and part of the Jets season now will be ruining other teams' seasons. You want to have as much fun as you can. You want to make the playoffs, but if they can get some division wins like this, I mean, Bills fans are dying here tonight because they got their own issues to deal with, as every Bills fan knows, as our listeners know, and this is a season that's so big to them. This is the worst possible way to start, is losing to Zach Wilson at MetLife Stadium again.
I could think of a worse way to start.
Okay, that's true. You know what I mean, though.
I'm mad that I didn't put Garrett Wilson in the Superstar Club, by the way.
This is crazy. That catch was crazy. He, like,
dude. Did you hear Troy? I know everybody's excited, but Troy Aikman, did you hear what he said after it happened?
What did he say?
Oh,
He's
yeah.
the greatest young receiver that I've ever seen.
Yep. And he talked about seeing that
Troy
a year
Aikman.
ago, too.
Wow. I didn't hear that. That is, you don't want to, like, go crazy in the moment, but that's got to be on the list of, like, the 20 best touchdowns of all time, 10 best. I mean, hands aren't supposed to work that way. He, like, backhanded it like it was like a volley to himself with the other side of his. What the heck? It was such a bad throw, and it was just he's amazing. I don't know.
All right. Anything else? I'm about.
Dan, I think we need to let you go off into. I know Greg is going to have another comment, but we need to let you go off into the distance and not enjoy this. Just ponder this, and
this is
it's a big. You showed up tonight. You could have ghosted us, but you didn't.
That would not have been an option.
I know.
It did actually, honestly, during my catatonic state tonight, it did cross my mind to, like, maybe I'll just sit this one out and talk on Wednesday. And then I did think, well, if we did a podcast 2 days after Wes died, like, and we talked about that, like, nothing is ever going to be harder or crazier than that. So I could certainly talk about what happened to Aaron Rodgers and the Jets' dreams tonight. So
let's hear on a positive note, just circling back to Hard Knocks. That's all. I just want to hear from Robert Salah, because as crazy as that game is, for it to end on Xavier Gibson, of all people, after this build-up to Hard Knocks, was a really special football moment. Let's hear Salah in that clip when Gibson made the team for Bar Nux.
Just want to let you know, man, you're a New York Jet.
Why you scared me?
Welcome to the team, brother.
Hey, I appreciate it, man. I had a long 20-minute drive back, man.
I know it.
No,
Yes, sir.
you earned it,
Thank
bud.
you.
You're gonna do a lot of good things for us this year. You got something to you. The way you approach the game with your intent, your mindset, and all that stuff, like there's no doubt in our mind that you're gonna maximize who you are.
Yes, sir.
You're definitely one of us.
Beautiful, beautiful moment. And hey, heads up, John Parry, rules analyst, you're going to come on the air to prove you're worth a paycheck and say you got to put an asterisk on that punt return on this night for that team. I'll tell you where to put an asterisk. Take a walk. Take a walk. I'm going to take a walk. It's like Aaron Rodgers, 90% retired. He went in the darkness. I'm going to take a walk with the captain. And we're going to think about everything that transpired tonight on this crazy night. Heed the call.